My overreaction is the Vikings are going to go one and done in the playoffs if they even make the playoffs.
Oh. Hey, welcome into the Fantasy Flow. It's Austin, it's Andy. We just watched Week 10 of the NFL regular season. We're going to recap Week 10. We're going to preview Week 11. Andy, how was your weekend?
Pretty good, pretty good. Got to see some family, got to hang out over on the west side, and happy to be home.
That's great, man. Yeah, I was kind of all over the place. I went to my first poker tournament. I know you're the poker guy between the two of us, but I actually got a chance to mix it up at the table and messed around. Lost all my money, but I had a good time. And yeah, then I didn't catch any football this weekend at all, except for the Monday night game. So I had to do a lot of research after the fact. I watched a lot of highlights, got into those box scores, but I caught the entire Monday night football game, which I thought was going to be a total offensive shootout. It was the opposite. That both defenses were wreaking havoc. And yeah, a lot of people who needed some points, needed some fantasy points on Monday night, did not get them, and we'll get to that. But man, headline news from this weekend is this is post trade deadline, so the news is going to be a little lighter. But we did get some sad news out of Dallas. Dak Prescott is getting surgery, and he is done for the year. Andy, what was your reaction when you heard that news?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of timed it perfectly with our elimination pick, to be quite honest. That was kind of my first reaction. We
Same.
said Dallas was going to make the playoffs, and sure enough, yeah, he's done for the year, which they were kind of tiptoeing around in the first place. So, yeah, I have a decent amount of Dallas stock, so definitely hurts on that front for fantasy-wise, but it kind of just seems like this was a accumulation of everything that Dallas was going through at the beginning of the year, before the season, at the start, and then here it is in front of them. Dak's done for the year. Like, of course that's what happened. Unfortunate, but of course.
Yeah, just the timing of it, it felt like something that like you could maybe try and push through if the team was a little more competitive, but they're not. So why put yourself through that? This obviously is a huge blow to the likes of Jake Ferguson, Fergie Ferg, one of your favorite tight ends, and to CeeDee Lamb, who was already having a down year, and now he has to deal with backup quarterback play, which we've seen be terrible for Tyreek Hill for most of the year so far. Jamar Chase last year, he had a down year having to deal with backup quarterback play. So, yeah, real bummer for CeeDee Lamb. And
Yeah.
and for Dallas. Elsewhere in the NFC, the Chicago Bears, they announced that they have fired their offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, whom we're very familiar with as Seahawks fans, and they've replaced him with a man named Thomas Brown, who was, if you're not familiar with Thomas Brown's work, he was the offensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers last year. So
Yeah.
we can expect big things from this Bears offense.
Yeah, it's a point in the right direction, that's for sure. Is it going to be the save all button? Probably not. The Bears are just a bad organization, just poorly run in the first place. So, like, I compare it to the whole Buffalo situation last year where they fired the offensive coordinator and it worked out. Pittsburgh did the same thing and it worked out, right? Because those are, at the core, those organizations know what they're doing. Chicago doesn't. So I don't see that same type of luck or productivity moving forward for that organization.
Sure, I hear that. I guess I'm a little bit more optimistic. I will give the Bears credit for this. They are 4-5. It's not like they waited until their season was toast to make a change. Like it's all in front of them, especially with all these divisional games. And I feel like they made a change just in time, potentially. We'll see. But yeah, they didn't just demote him. They didn't just take away his play calling duties. They said, get out of the building. We're going to try and move on with a completely different offensive strategy. And we'll see if Caleb Williams can actually push the ball downfield with a new offensive coordinator. It was terrible for DJ Moore. It was terrible for Caleb Williams for fantasy. So we'll see. Let's stay on the NFC. And what stood out to you most on that side of our league from Week 10 action?
Sure. Honestly, big disappointment from Sam Darnold and the Vikings as a whole. I mean, they scored 12 points. I know you didn't catch the game, but this guy is just reeling. It's like he's doing one thing one week and then he reverts back to his normal seeing ghost Sam Darnold the next. Like it doesn't make any sense why he can't destroy this Jaguars team that is just reeling, that just can't get anything done right. And then he just throws interception on the. I think he threw at least 2, maybe 3 interceptions in the red zone or at the goal line. It was terrible, dude. It was not cool. And my overreaction is the Vikings are going to go one and done in the playoffs if they even make the playoffs. I could easily see Green Bay coming in and making a run because they all play. We've talked about it, right? This is one of the divisions that just play each other back to back games in their division throughout the end of this season. And that starts now. That starts this week. So if Green Bay, I could easily see Green Bay making a push and trying to take their spot. So I'm just saying the Vikings are not playoff worthy pretty much.
That's really tough. Yeah. Man, I definitely think that they'll make the playoffs. Their record is so good, and their next 2 games are against the Titans and the Bears. But man, yeah, one and done in the playoffs, that could definitely be the case because the NFC is just loaded, especially at the top. I mean, they're going to play. If the Lions get the 1 seed, the Vikings could find themselves matched up against the Eagles or the Commanders.
Arizona. I mean, hell, even Arizona at this point. I mean, I'm betting on Arizona to win that game.
Could be, yeah. The way that Arizona's playing right now, I think it's 4 wins in a row. And then
right.
Yeah, the 49ers are right there too. They seem to be putting things together. Got a W this week. Yeah, that's super tough. We've seen ups. We've seen really high highs from Darnold, and we've seen really low lows. Hopefully that was just a bury the ball game and just move on. Short memory. They got the win after all. So I don't know. I wouldn't read too much into one game, but yeah, I'm by no means am I pegging them for the NFC Championship game. So
right.
I want to go the other way. I want to talk about some bottom feeders in the NFC and the Panthers and the Giants, 2 teams that probably are incentivized to lose, are trying so hard to win this game. It's so close. They go to overtime, and it's like the 3rd play from scrimmage. Tyrone Tracy fumbles the ball in his own half. The Panthers take over, and I'm just watching, and I can't believe that they even put Bryce Young back out on the field. Like, I would have just put Eddie Pinheiro out on the field and kicked the field goal right away. They put Bryce Young. He gives some obligatory handoffs, and then they kick the field goal, go home, win the game. That's 2 wins in a row for Bryce Young, 2 wins in a row for the Carolina Panthers. And I just had this super ironic thought watching the Panthers go on this awkward late season run that takes them out of a good draft spot. It's exactly what the Giants did last year when they just won a few too many games and they were out of quarterback range and they ended up having to go with Daniel Jones again. Are the Panthers going to be this year's Giants where they win just too many games and then they have to go stick with Bryce Young for another year even though they know he's not the guy?
Do we know I don't know, man. if he keeps on winning, do we know he's not the guy? Does he pull like a whole Zach Wilson thing where he wins enough to keep his job? Like,
That's worst case scenario, right? For the
yeah.
Panthers?
Do they really want to spend another top 5 pick on a quarterback though? Like, that's kind of where I know he's probably not the answer, but man, the quarterbacks coming out in the draft are so good this year too. That's the crazy part.
Man, yeah, I just hate to see it because he's just so young and full of promise, and they're so pot committed, and then he goes and he wins a couple of games. Like, I thought we were done with this guy. They put in Andy Dalton, and then suddenly he gets in a car accident, jams his thumb or something, and then Bryce Young's back out there, and then he gets a couple of ugly wins, and it could set the franchise back like years. I don't know. That's just my take on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna overreact. I'm gonna say that's an overreaction a little bit, just because I thought Bryce Young was gonna come back at some point this year. I didn't know exactly when, and I mean, you probably have just as likely as a chance to win or lose the game with Andy Dalton or Bryce Young. So maybe that's my own answer to say Bryce Young isn't the long-term answer. That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah, all right. Well, let's switch gears and let's go over to the AFC. What stood out to you this weekend?
All right, I'm going another playoff prediction, but I'm going to say that the Colts are going to make the playoffs over the Broncos and over the Bengals.
Whoa.
Now,
okay.
Hear me out.
Okay,
So,
let me pull up the schedule. Yeah.
I'll let you pull up all their schedules. I don't have them all written down, but I went through their next 7 games, right? The Colts, because of their division, they play Tennessee, they play Jacksonville. I think they play the Raiders in there. Like, I counted their next 7 games as 5 wins and 2 losses. For the Broncos, I counted 2 wins, 5 losses, and for the Bengals, I counted 3 wins, 4 losses. And the Colts play the Broncos week 16, and then the Broncos play the Bengals week 17. So I think the Chargers are going to do enough to get in. I think so. It comes down to the Broncos, the Colts, and maybe the Bengals. It just depends on what happens with that defense, but I don't know. The Colts just have an easier division. They have easier games in front of them. The Broncos have to play the Chiefs. The Broncos have to play the Chargers. I think the Chargers are the better team. We've been on this bandwagon. You and me have been on this semi-bandwagon of the Broncos, but I think it's time to hop off and go find Joe Flacco.
Dang. All right. Yeah, last week was their first game all season. They lost to the Bills by 10 points. It was their first game that was outside of one possession. So they've been in one possession games throughout the year. So that's crazy. That is just right on the edge. They're 4-6, but like really they can play with anyone except the Bills, right? So if, some of those games were Anthony Richardson games. We've seen great Flacco games, we've seen bad Flacco games. That's a super interesting note about the schedule. Yeah, so in the AFC, it is not as competitive as the NFC. Right now, the Broncos are holding on to that final wild card spot with a 5-5 record. So it's up for grabs. This is not an overreaction. I don't know that they would be my pick, but that is a very interesting note about how easy their schedule is down the stretch. And they are absolutely in it. This is not an overreaction at all to pick the Colts. I think they're just a stable team with a solid defense. Jonathan Taylor's one of the best in the business. And yeah, if we can get good Joe Flacco, if we can get hot Joe Flacco like we got at the end of last season, yeah, I totally see it. I mean, they'll get bounced in the first round for sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They're fighting for the 7th spot here, so that means going against the Steelers as it sits right now. So
interesting. Yeah. No, I mean, that whole 2 versus 7 matchup has just been nothing but a money grab ever since they
exactly
gave both conferences an extra wild card spot.
Exactly.
You mentioned the Steelers. That's funny because that's my AFC reaction. from what took place. There was one of our Fantasy Flow picks was the Steelers to cover against the Commanders. Not only did they cover, they won the game outright just by 1 point on a controversial play, but we will take it. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they are holding on to that division lead despite the Ravens' dominance. The Ravens would have to go on the road throughout the playoffs if the playoffs started today, because the Steelers are just continuing to roll. And here's my reaction from what I saw. It's in the form of a prediction, and I'm going fantasy football here. George Pickens and Russell Wilson will be top 10 at their positions rest of season.
Oh, boy. Russ has to be... You're saying from this point till the
Rest
end of the
of
season,
season.
he'll be a top 10? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Man,
let me
Russ
pull up
has-
their schedule.
Okay. Russ has been pretty good. Not top 10 worthy, but he's been averaging around like 18 to 20 points per game ever since he got the starting gig, maybe even a little less. But George Pickens, man, like I was trying to get him in Dynasty. I mean, this, like, oh man, like I knew after I saw that first game, I was like, this is my guy. I'm going to try to go get George Pickens, because we know how Russ is with that wide receiver one, a tall, go get him, go get the ball type of guy. Like I could just see, I want George Pickens.
Man, Pickens is so good. Pickens is my number one trade for target at the trade deadline for your fantasy leagues. I know in a dynasty league, I offered Tyreek Hill for George Pickens straight up, and that was quickly rejected because of age, I think, because it was a dynasty league. He didn't want Tyreek Hill's. Saw that as too big of a delta to overcome just with the age.
Sure.
But man, I thought maybe the name value of Tyreek, I could get George Pickens, and I would have been absolutely thrilled with that. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I think they're the only team left in the league that has not played a divisional matchup yet. They haven't played a divisional opponent at all. So think about those divisional opponents. The Baltimore Ravens, their defense is bad, especially their pass defense. The Bengals, their defense is bad, like especially their pass defense.
Yep.
The Browns, I would say, I think we all agree that their defense is better than their offense, but they're not scaring anyone as a unit. Like
No.
I see all of those games as like plus matchups, and I'll read Russell Wilson's fantasy finish, and this is going to vary significantly because every fantasy league uses different quarterback scoring settings. I think this is 4-point touchdown scoring.
Okay.
His finishes,
Passing.
he has 3 starts where he's played the whole game. His fantasy finish is quarterback 3, quarterback 24, quarterback 9 last week. So 2 out of 3, he's top 10. And like I said, lots of good matchups still on the schedule. And oh, by the way, they added Mike Williams, who caught just that beautiful, sexy deep ball from Russell Wilson. I could see that happening again and again as we finish out the year.
That's a good point. Yeah, the minute he scored that touchdown, I'm thinking, why did the Jets just do that?
It is
that
hilarious.
was such a dumb move.
Yeah. I'm not prepared with the stats, but it is hilarious if you want to take a deep dive into all the players who have left the New York Jets. These New York Jets, I'm wearing a Jets jersey for those listening to the podcast. So many players have left the New York Jets and like had a ton of success on like their next team.
Yeah.
Mike Williams is just the next one in line. All right, let's get a update from our listener league. In our Guillotine League, we had to chop another manager, and this time it was our friend Leezy, young Leezy. He got eliminated, and shout out to Leezy, man. This is one of the best teams now it's got to be the best team that's been chopped so far this year. We're going to see Derrick Henry hit the waiver wire. We're going to see Justin Jefferson hit the waiver wire. We're going to see Jalen Hurts hit the waiver wire. It's like the top guys across the board. And, man, Justin Jefferson, worst game of the season, only 10 fantasy points. Derrick Henry, Man, and the Ravens, it was an offensive explosion, but it was just a lot of passing and not a lot of Derrick Henry, I guess. He only scored, I think,
Right.
14. So that's pretty crazy. As someone who's still in the league, Andy, how do you feel about this impressive crop, and how do you feel about Leesy's team in general?
Yeah, I mean, to have Jalen Hurts hit the waiver wire is huge news. To have Derrick Henry hit the waiver wire is huge news. He also had like a pretty decent bench too. Jaden Daniels, T. Higgins. Like it. Hey, I'm not complaining, I guess is what I gotta say.
Yeah, this is where guillotine leagues get either really fun or really frustrating, depending on how much fab you have left, right? So, Andy, you're in a great spot. You have a lot of fab left. I know we have a couple teams who are still in, but have literally zero fab. So you can try and put in your bids, but you're gonna get outbid for especially for those guys that we mentioned. So,
Right,
should be
right.
interesting to track. Moment of silence for Leezy.
The tribe has spoken.
He gone.
Moving on. We got to eliminate an NFL team from the playoffs. We're talking a lot about the schedule. I know you and I, we're looking ahead, we're looking behind, we're trying to figure out where these teams are and where they're going to be. And I will remind our audience who has already been eliminated. We got the Panthers, the Giants, the Patriots, the Jaguars, the Raiders, the Browns, the Titans, the Saints, and last week we eliminated the Dallas Cowboys, which is looking pretty good. I'm feeling great about all those teams and their odds to miss the playoffs. We got to add another team to the list. And Andy, you might have a guess as to where my head's at here, and I kind of have a guess as to where your head's at here. But I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can tell us what you're thinking.
Sure, I'm looking at the playoff standings for both conferences. All of our picks are the bottom five, on each conference. So yeah, I'd say that's pretty good. Our hit rate's doing all right, but we gotta go the Jets. They're done.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done defending the Jets. I wanted to give them a chance. They've made so many changes, and I just thought, man, there's so many big names on this team. It has to come together. It just has to. And then they beat the Texans last week. They had a lot of time. That was a Thursday game, so they have kind of an extra time to prepare for the Cardinals. But the Cardinals destroyed them 31-6. The
Oh
Jets
yeah,
didn't
dude.
score any points in the second half. They got blanked. And this was like basically a must win for the Jets. And they came up empty. Like I words cannot describe how bad they looked and just how disappointing that was.
Yeah, I know you didn't catch much of the game, but at some point Aaron Rodgers has to be laying on the ground like, what am I doing here, man? Like, what is the point of this? Like, I'm just getting my butt kicked. I'm getting knocked to the ground. My best friend can't catch a ball. Like, what the heck am I doing here?
Yeah, I saw that Devonte Adams drop in the end zone. That's like
Dude,
what
he had a
more can
lot
you
of
do?
drops.
You can't catch
He
it
had
for
a
him.
lot.
Yeah.
He
Oh my God.
they showed clips of Devontae playing catch with the Jets fans that were there in the stadium before, like during warm-ups and everything. It's like, dude, you needed to like practice with some professionals because their bad juju just got all onto your gloves. Like,
Interesting. Yeah. No, it's not particularly close. I'm trying to find like another team that we could even throw into the discussion here. The only other team with a similar record is the Miami Dolphins. The Jets are 3-7. The Dolphins are 3-6 because they've had their bye week. The Dolphins are sitting at second place in their division at 3-6.
I know, that's so sad.
Yeah, no, they actually looked really good on Monday night against the Rams, especially defensively. I'm glad we kept them alive because now the Dolphins' schedule really softens up. They get the Raiders and then the Patriots. So I think they have a real possibility of making a run. I want to keep them alive. I do not want to keep the Jets alive. The only other team that I would even entertain might be the Chicago Bears because they just seem buried at fourth place in their division, and the NFC is just so stacked. But I think that this offensive coordinator change is interesting, and they play the Packers this coming week. So I kind of just want to see what happens, and if they are who we think they are, and they get easily defeated by the Packers, then maybe that's where we go next week.
Yeah, and unfortunately, another team that we're going to have to kind of keep our eyes on is the Seattle Seahawks.
Hey now. Yeah.
Just speaking
man.
the truth.
No, yeah, it crossed my mind. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, Jets for now. You're gone.
Flipping the page to next week, we have some awesome games. Especially now, the NFL, they kind of backloaded all these divisional games. So we're getting some real powerhouse matchups that have massive implications for the division and for the playoffs. I'm talking about Commanders versus Eagles. I'm talking about Ravens Steelers. And then in the middle of Sunday, we get Chiefs versus Bills. Two just absolute titans who are like, I think they're the 1 and the 3 seed right now. So, man, I'm excited, dude. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, that Kansas City Buffalo game. It's in Buffalo. I know it's a regular season game, but man, those are just, we love those matchup of those two powerhouses.
I mean, if the Chiefs don't lose this one, like if they win, if they go into Buffalo and they beat the Bills, we've got to start talking about this undefeated run and if they could go the rest of the year. If they could make history, right? Like, if they beat the Bills in Buffalo.
Oh, man. How close was I on that frickin' pick, dude? Like,
we gotta talk about it.
Oh, my God, dude. Like, I thought for sure that Broncos had this one in the bag. And I was about to look like a super genius because, oh, man, just what a block. Of course, the one thing that can only happen to save them goes Kansas City way, and they win the game because of it. I mean, you got to be kidding me. But I don't know how, like, at this point, we've said it before, how can we not trust Kansas City to win the game? I mean, until they prove us otherwise, until they lose more than 2 games this year, or lose at all, like you just said. Like, they might not lose at all.
Yeah. That's crazy. It is crazy. The Broncos game, Bo Nix outplayed Patrick Mahomes, which I'm just gonna let that marinate for a second. Bo Nix outplayed Patrick Mahomes. It's just facts. And they should have made the game-winning kick. Instead, their offensive line that's supposed to be blocking for the kick just disintegrates, and like multiple Chiefs players just ambush the field goal kicker, and it doesn't even have a chance. So that's just absolutely wild. Such a rare moment that maintains this undefeated run from the Chiefs. I'm kind of over it at this point, but I think we do deserve to give ourselves a little bit of a pat on the back that we saw that coming, that the Broncos would give the Chiefs the biggest fight that they've had all year.
Right. Yeah, another different matchup to highlight is as we just mentioned, talking about Chicago, is Green Bay in Chicago. Like that's gonna matter a lot. And then if Cincinnati wants to make a run for the playoffs, they're gonna have to win this game against the Chargers on Sunday Night Football in LA.
Oh yeah, we'll be talking about that game for sure.
Okay.
Borderline must win for the Bengals, right?
Yeah.
I've been talking about the Chargers and how the Chargers haven't played anybody. Well, here's Joe Burrow. Here's Jamar Chase. Go beat a formidable opponent, and then come talk to me. Like I don't believe in the Chargers at all. I believe in their playoff chances, but I don't believe in them as a team. So this is super interesting. Vegas has it as it's within like 1 point. So yeah, that's going to be a very,
Yeah.
Close AFC matchup. Let's talk some fantasy football. I got Justin Herbert flowing into my lineup. Herbert's been playing well, and he's been kind of bad for fantasy for the first entire half of the year, but he's come on as of late. And like I said earlier, the Bengals have a bad defense, bad pass defense, and I expect this game to be high scoring. It's a gotta have it game. It's a exploitable opponent, so yeah, I'm flowing Justin Herbert into my lineup.
Yeah, I saw that earlier today, and I'm totally with you. I mean, he has really come on these last couple of weeks, and their run game is still just as strong. It's not like, I mean, sure, maybe taking a little bit of a dip, but they are just figuring it out on offense. I think it helps to have a coach and an offensive coordinator that knows what the hell they're doing.
They got Gus Edwards back. That was kind of a surprise to me. I was talking about how J.K. Dobbins has been he's been slowing down, and you can see it. And then on Sunday they totally split that workload in half. Now that Gus is back, and we'll see.
I'm gonna go Sam Laporta. I know it's been a bumpy road, but Detroit has a really easy matchup going against Jacksonville. Detroit is favored by 13 points in this matchup. Isn't that insane?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think there's going to be lots of room for everybody to get their points. I think they're going to be running the ball. They're going to be passing the ball. Jared Goff is going to try to redeem himself when it comes to the MVP conversation. So I'm saying you're okay to flow in Laporta.
Sure. Yeah. He's as good of a tight end as any. I mean, yeah, he's not reliable, but what else is new for tight ends? So yeah, I have no problem with that at all. I'm gonna go running back. I'm gonna go with a guy that some of our listeners might have never even heard of, and his name is Audric Estime. He's a rookie for the Broncos. Against the Chiefs, the Broncos gave Audric Estime everything. He had like 80 or 90% of the carries for the team. He was the lead back. It's a total change to how they've been doing things up until that point. It was other guys. It was Javonte Williams. It was all these other names. They just kept cycling through, and I think they're trying to find something. They're trying to find a spark, and they went to Audric Estime last week, nearly won the game. Estime, did he do anything really special? No. But it was against the Kansas City Chiefs defense, which we all agree is one of the best defenses in the league. This week, he gets the Falcons, which I think that's a much better matchup. And so we'll see what happens. I think he's a starting running back. He's available everywhere. So, I'm fine putting him into your flex.
Yeah, 14-1 carries.
Him versus the rest of the backfield.
Him versus Javonte specifically.
Sure. Yeah. So
that's crazy.
Drop Javonte and pick up Audric Estime.
I agree. I'm going to stick with the same team. I'm going all Broncos, talking about being on a mini Bronco bandwagon. I'm going Cortland Sutton. I mean, if you haven't been starting him already, you need to change your mindset on this guy. He just continues to find the end zone, kind of like he did last year. Like it was like I think it was like 7 games in a row or something like that last year, where he had a touchdown. He finds the end zone this week against Kansas City. 9 targets, 6 catches, 19 fantasy points. I mean, clearly the favorite for Bo Nix. So, like you said, Atlanta has a bad defense. I think this is an easy game for the Broncos and Cortland Sutton.
I really needed to hear that because I have been leaving him on my bench because last time I started him, he got me 0. That was like, 4 weeks ago or something?
Yeah, week 7, yep.
That's so hard to put a guy like that back into your lineup. But, I love the matchup this week. And, if you have bye weeks or whatever else is hitting your team, he's a great option this week. I totally agree. Sticking with the wide receiver position, I am going with a guy. He was on fire before his bye week this last week. His name is Cedric Tillman wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns. And I want to pull up his stat sheet because he's going up against the Saints this week, who are without Marshawn Lattimore, without much to play for. And Cedric Tillman, he has been the number one wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns ever since they traded away
Wow.
Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
I
think
pulling it up right now. Sorry.
No, you're good. I think yeah, Jerry Jeudy got 11 targets, 6, 8 and 11, and Cedric Tillman got 12, 9 and 11. So, yeah, you're right. I thought it was definitely Jerry Jeudy's job to keep. But Tillman has just been like that inch or two better than Jerry Jeudy these last couple of weeks. It'll be interesting to see what happens coming out of the bye, seeing what the coaching staff and seeing what changes, if anything. But yeah, I mean, anytime you get to play the Saints, plug in your guy. That's a great advice right there.
Cedric Tillman is bigger than Jerry Jeudy. So I think just the routes that he's running, I think they're more valuable. The last 3 games Cedric Tillman has played, 8 catches for 81 yards, 7 catches for 99 yards and 2 touchdowns, 6 catches for 75 yards and a touchdown. He's been a top 12 wide receiver the last 3 games. So do not hesitate to put him into your lineup. Don't be that guy that just, another guy has a bigger name, so you can't quite, make the switch. I'm giving you permission to just throw Cedric Tillman into your lineup. Don't forget about this guy. Even though he's coming off a bye, he's very valuable. And if he's on waivers, absolutely pick him up.
Check your waivers for sure. I'm going C.J. Stroud. I'm going quarterback for the Houston Texans. They're going against the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football. This is a get-right game for the Texans. They've just been slowly going downhill. Nico should be back. Tank Dell has really improved. And, I mean, it's Joe Mixon, baby. When you say all those names on paper, how can this guy not succeed, especially against a Dallas Cowboys team that is going to be playing defense a lot. So, time to finally plug in C.J. Stroud.
I am so excited for the return of Nico Collins and what that means for Stroud and for this team. We'll talk more about that later. Yeah. We got to go negative here. If you got to flow some guys into your lineup, that means you got to flow some guys out. And one of the guys that I'm flowing out of my lineup, he's coming off a bye. And he should be healthy, but I'm still not playing him. I'm talking about Jordan Love. He's going up against the Chicago Bears. That's a really tough defense. And he was doing poorly before that. So I do not trust him. The analysis here doesn't go much further deep than that. But I just think that there are other waiver wire guys with some good matchups. And you shouldn't feel any allegiance to Jordan Love. You don't got to stick with that. You can pivot. It's a bad matchup. That's how we should be treating the quarterback position anyways. So, how about you, Andy? You got a quarterback that you're flowing out?
No, I got a running back. I'm going Tony Pollard. We saw Tajay Spears come in and get a lot of the pass catching work, a lot of the carries. I think Pollard's a little banged up, and he's trying to play through it. Now that Tajay Spears is actually back and actually healthy, like they've been predicting him to be back these past 3 weeks, and he just continually can't make it back to the football field for game time. Now that he's here, I would really start looking at other running back options. Pollard has a really tough playoffs, remaining rest of the schedule as well. And with Tajay coming back, I mean, he used to be going 20 carries and 28 carries, and last week he got 9. He was a little hurt, but that's a pretty big drop off.
Yeah, that was a weird game for the Titans. I just looking at the box score, and it was Will Levis was efficient, and the team. It looks like they gave up 7 sacks. So I was trying to find why did the Titans lose handily to the Chargers when Will Levis is spinning it and both of these running backs are getting involved in a good way. But
yeah, the box score doesn't tell you that they scored on their very first drive to Calvin Ridley. They were looking really good, the Titans, and then they don't score at all the rest of the game, and then he does another nice drive towards the very end. So it's
garbage time. Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and Tony Pollard got hurt in the first quarter. I'm pretty sure had to come out. So they were just they were on this great roll, and then it just stopped right after they scored.
Gotcha. Okay, I got another running back that also left the game this weekend. I'm talking about Aaron Jones. He got a little banged up near the beginning. They thought, oh man, how serious is this? And then turns out he's comes back into the game later. Honestly, didn't look too great. I'm a little concerned. And they're going up against the Tennessee Titans, who they still have a tough defense. That's not a good matchup by any means.
Oh yeah.
And I think when I think of Aaron Jones, I think he's having like a surprisingly successful campaign with the Vikings. But he's only scored 3 touchdowns this year. 3 total touchdowns.
Yikes. That's not great.
So there's not a whole lot of upside, and I think this is just a good week to sit him down on your bench. And I'm just going to go right into my third player I'm flowing out of my lineup because I already talked about Jordan Love. I'm lumping Jaden Reed in there as well. Reed, he was the number 1 wide receiver in week 1, and I think that's kind of anchored him in the minds of people as like this start-worthy asset. But he's only had 3 top 24 performances so far this year. They just spread the ball around so much, and you can't predict it. And the Bears is a tough matchup. So,
yeah, it looks like he needs to have over 100 yards receiving to be fantasy relevant. Yeah, I agree. That's hard to sit down Reed because he is the most talented player on that team, on the receiving core.
yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of like we're saying the same stuff over here. Like we really just don't think this Chicago Green Bay game is going to be high scoring because I wrote down DeAndre Swift. The Packers are coming off a bye. They have a really good front seven. I really like the Packers defense as a whole. They're going to be giving Caleb a lot of hell. So unless the new offensive coordinator can figure out in less than a week, I would try to sit DeAndre Swift if you can. Third guy, I'm going all running backs as flow out. Hopefully this is helpful to you folks. I'm going Nick Chubb. We have not seen anything close to what we thought Nick Chubb was going to be when he came back. We knew it was going to be a not as great, but this is just nothing. And the Browns are nothing. So I'm sitting Nick Chubb until I see a good performance. I don't care if he pops off on my bench. I'm just wait. I have to wait. It's a wait and see game with him.
I totally agree with that. You know, who I'm seeing a lot at the top of some waiver wires is Jerome Ford, Nick Chubb's supposed backup. Would you want to start him instead, or is this just a sit all Browns running backs?
No, Ford. I know Ford's been a little banged up, but he's been in those games with Chubb, and they both. I mean, the Browns just get down so early, so they get down in the football game so quickly that they have to throw the ball, and obviously, Nick Chubb used to be it doesn't matter the game score or the game script. Nick Chubb is going to get his, but he's just not there yet. If he ever will be, and it might not even happen this year. So. If we don't see what we need to see out of Nick Chubb, he might be droppable worthy if he's not already.
Yeah, I think it depends on your league size and league settings and stuff like that. But yeah, he's him and Jonathan Brooks are just like those guys that you draft and you put on your IR, and then you just kind of I can't wait for this guy to come back, and then they've just been so disappointing. Hey, just wanted to jump in here real quick to remind you all about our partnership with BETSTAMP. If you're ready to take your sports betting to the next level and you want to support our show, we highly recommend signing up for your next sportsbook through the show's Signup Expert link in the description. This will allow you to take advantage of many new user offers available. And don't forget to bet responsibly by tracking all of your bets and getting yourself the best odds through the BETSTAMP app. Back to the show! It is time for this week's Fantasy Flow 4-pack of game picks against the spread. Last week, we actually had a winning week. We got 3 out of 4 correct. And this week, I'm going to start us off. And Andy, I know you agree with me on this one. We're taking the Texans to cover against the Cowboys. -7.5. It's more than a touchdown, and it is an away game. This is in Dallas. But the Texans are getting Nico Collins back, and the Cowboys are just a moribund, non-competitive team at this point. So a 7.5 seems very doable. What are your thoughts on that, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, even if Houston just kicks field goals all game, they're going to win by more than a touchdown. So Nico coming back is huge. Like I said, I'm starting CJ Stroud if I have him. I really want to give hope into CeeDee Lamb and that side of the football, but they're probably going to put up like no more than 10 points. So that means Houston has to score 18, and I easily see that happening.
Yeah, and Houston needs a bounce back game in the worst way. So this is just a recipe for disaster for Cowboys fans. It just continues to get worse. And this is interesting. I actually don't know your game picks for this week. So Andy, go ahead and hit me with a game pick.
Sure. So I'm going to set the stage a little bit. I don't know how good the Rams are. They beat up against teams they win against these games that they shouldn't, and then they lose against the teams that they shouldn't lose to. So I don't know how good the Rams are, and now they have to fly across the country to New England on a East Coast morning game. So that means 7 a.m. their body time. I'm picking the New England Patriots +5 against the Rams.
Wow. Okay. I know you like yourself some Drake May. They got a nice win this week. The offense wasn't exactly rolling, but the defense sure was. They who did they play last week? I just know that they got a nice win.
The Bears, and the Bears only scored 3 points.
Oh my God! Yeah. So another rookie quarterback beating Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I know. What a terrible storyline.
That's super interesting. I kind of wish it was more points. Just 5 seems manageable for the Rams, but at the same time, they looked so bad on Monday. I mentioned I watched that whole game, and I just watched Sean McVay kick field goal after field goal. They attempted 6 field goals. They never scored a touchdown. He's so conservative. It's insane how he can revolutionize offense in the NFL and be the most just ridiculously conservative head coach when it comes to stuff like that. How do you attempt 6 field goals and never score a touchdown, and you lose by 10? Super sad. Super frustrating. I don't know what's up with that offense.
Even if they kick a field goal to end the game, to say it's a tie game and it's a game-winning field goal, that means the Patriots still get their points. They cover. They did. The Rams did not cover. Excuse me. So, I'm going with the Patriots on this one.
All right. Yeah, I don't mind it. My other pick, I know what we said about Sam Darnold and that you can't trust him, but I'm still picking the Vikings this week to cover -6. And that's because they're going to Tennessee and they get to play the Titans. The Titans are just, like you said, the game wasn't even as close as the box score suggests this last week. They got absolutely handled by the LA Chargers. I think the Vikings are a better team than that. And, win by a touchdown.
Yeah, it's the lowest over-under at 39.5 going into the weekend. I looked at it. It's funny. I had a roller coaster on this one. When I looked at it, I was like, oh, yeah, that's a good one. And then when I was making my picks, I was like, wow, that's a lot. And then when we started this and started talking about them, I'm like, oh, yeah, they can win by more than 6. So, yeah, I'm with you now.
All righty. So I picked 2 road favorites.
Mm-hmm.
And you picked an underdog to cover for your first pick. How about your second pick?
Yeah, I'm going to pick another underdog to cover, and it's just one of those things where until we see it, I can't pick against it. So I'm going Kansas City Chiefs +2.5 against the Bills.
Oh, that's tough. That's tough.
It's tough. It's a great matchup. It could go either way. It could be a game-winning field goal. And a couple TV analysts have said this already. So it's whoever gets the ball last is going to win that game. And so by the way things are going, Kansas City's going to get the ball last, and they're going to go kick a game-winning field goal with like a minute or 59 seconds left or something like that. And all the announcers are going to be like, well, of course, here it is. Like, Patrick Mahomes going to go win the game, and he's going to go do it.
Yeah, maybe it's late game shenanigans like we saw with the blocked field goal. Maybe it's Mahomes magic. Maybe it's just luck of the coin toss if this game goes to overtime.
Right.
Maybe it's the refs. We've seen it all, and it all goes the way of the Chiefs. So the one thing I like about this pick is that if you are betting on the Chiefs, either you're right or the Chiefs finally lose a game. So that feels like a win-win. Yeah. So I love it from that standpoint. Would you just might as well go money line at that point? Like what are they like minus? What did you say? -2.5, -1.5?
Yeah. They're plus 2.5. Yeah.
Sorry. Yep. Yeah. Plus 2.5. Okay. So.
Yep.
Interesting.
Probably money line is probably better odds at that point. Yeah, but I think they're going to win off of a last-second field goal. I mean, by the time this game starts, by the time Saturday night hits, I'm sure the line's going to be closer to 1.5. Maybe even just 1 point.
Yeah. That's going to be a heck of a game to watch, man. I'm pumped for it. My head says Bills because I think they're the better team. But history would suggest otherwise. So.
Yeah, history would tell you that Andy Reid has the Bills' phone number stuffed in his pocket, and he's not giving it to nobody.
Yeah, I totally agree. I thought about picking the Bengals. We talked about that Bengals-Chargers game and how it just feels like a must-win for the Bengals, but I just don't trust them. I just don't. Neither does Vegas. They're actually underdogs by like a point. So that's a tough one. Other one that I almost picked was the Colts. And I didn't even know you were going to come out here and say that the Colts were going to make the playoffs. The Colts get the Jets this coming week. So hopefully we made the right choice there by axing the Jets and praising the Colts. They can make us look real smart this weekend. Colts plus 3.5. So they even cover losing by a field goal with that pick. But I ultimately liked my favorites. I like the Texans and the Vikings a little more.
Yeah, I'm down to bet against the Jets every weekend moving forward.
But that means you're betting on Joe Flacco, which also feels like dicey territory.
I don't get why Vegas keeps on making them the Jets as favorites. Like, if they're letting us down, how are they not letting? Maybe I'm not looking at the odds and the lines as much when it comes to the Jets, but to me, it just seems like they're letting everybody down. Why is Vegas continually hopping on that boat? I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that is going to do it for this episode. Andy, any parting thoughts?
No. We get to see the Seahawks play, so that's going to be something.
Yeah. No Seahawks talk at all on this episode because they're coming off a bye. Who do we play? Is it San Francisco?
In San Fran.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll talk about that next week. Yeah.
We'll see.
We're trying to get our YouTube channel over 50 subscribers. So if you've listened this long, share it with a friend. Share it with 2 friends. Share it with a family member that shares your passion for football. That would help us out a ton. Quick call to action there. Don't ask anything of you guys at all. Get us above 50. That would be awesome. I think that's it for this week.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Until next time. Thanks a ton for making it to the end of the episode. You're a real one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. That's a free, easy way to support the show, and it really helps us out. And leave us your comments down below if you're on YouTube, or send in your questions at thefantasyflowpodcast@gmail.com. Until next time.